Holy shy guy, Alex. A Nintendo Direct was just announced for 10 p.m. tomorrow. I'm John from Nintendo Life, and I'm joined by Alex Zolny.
Hello.
What are you feeling?
Confusion, relief, mild dysphoria, I think. I don't really feel like I'm here.
So it's been 530 days since the last mainline Direct. It was on September 4th, 2019, Alex. That was so long ago.
God, I was only a baby back then. Oh my God, when I saw it, I wasn't paying attention to my email or anything. I just happened to see on Twitter loads of people quote tweeting, and I thought, oh, is there like a partner Direct or a Nintendo Direct Mini? No! It's the real McCoy, the big cheese itself, a proper Nintendo Direct. Weirdly, though, they seem to be focusing on available games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and games coming in the first half of 2021 rather than anything else in the future.
Yeah, and they have said this kind of thing in the past. Like, I'm pretty sure they've said we're focusing just on games releasing this year. And there's always like one or two ones that just kind of fall out of that category. So I wouldn't rigidly stick to that. But also, don't get disappointed if it is just games in the first half of 2021. But it is exciting, though, that they did specify Smash, meaning that we're almost definitely seeing the next Smash character here.
And who could it be? I mean, that's almost a video in and of itself, but really, who do you want? Just John, just first one that comes to your mind. We don't have to kill anyone.
Who I want and who I expect are two very different things. I'll say who I expect. I know it's Pokemon Week next week, as in Pokemon Day is on next Saturday. So I think there's a very high chance of there being a Pokemon. There's very rarely been a Smash game that doesn't have the latest generation of Pokemon in. And we currently don't have a Gen 8 representation. So I think likelihood is Gen 8 Pokemon. Who I want, though, is, of course, Lip or Lyle, the most popular characters.
Oh, to be honest, the idea of like a Pokemon representative is not... It's not even remotely outlandish. I'd even go so far as to say it's borderline probable. There's so much that it could be. I've seen loads of people predicting Crash, which is, I think that's a decent example.
It's possible.
But, yeah, I think it's possible. But who I really want is not even the fighter that they're going to announce. I want a Mii costume. I want a Mii costume of Doshin the Giant.
So Alex has been trying to get his Doshin Mii into Elite Smash, but it kind of represents Doshin. Kinda.
It's not that great, is it? I mean, it's just not very close in the slightest, but I tried.
So you're happy. As long as there's a Doshin costume, you're happy.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, he's never going to be a fighter because, well, you say Ridley's too big. Look at Doshin the Giant. It's in his name. But I think, oh God, who could it possibly be? This has all happened so quickly. What was it, like 10 minutes ago? That we said, and started...
I realise that Pokemon is a safe and maybe even a boring pick, but I just think it's very likely. We have Incineroar representing Gen 7, but there's still a whole new generation with nothing. And we could have, like, Zacian. We could have a big doggo with a sword. We could have... I think a Galarian Pokemon trainer could be quite fun if we're just going to bring back that concept and maybe mix up the types a bit, make it a bit different to the default Pokemon trainer.
Or maybe, if they follow the same ideas as Pokemon Go, it's going to be Pikachu again, but this time with a new hat!
That's actually kind of touching on something. If they introduce sort of paid costumes for characters, I think that'd be quite cool.
That would be interesting. Yeah, for a second I was like, mate, there are already costumes but then I realized that's Mii fighters, but yeah. But at the I'm not sure about that. It feels like it's going a little bit too far down that kind of microtransaction-y route, and if it's only cosmetic, but even so, it's like,
There's just very simple things that I want, like put a bow on Miss Pac-Man. It's bizarre that Miss Pac-Man isn't represented in any form, and just a little bow costume, that would do it, that would be enough. I mean, Smash is unpredictable. You think they're going to go for one thing, and then all of a sudden, it's Sephiroth. Like, you never know what they're going to do. So we can speculate for this for hours and hours. It could probably be its own video if we wanted it to be, but I think it's probably best that we move away from Smash and start speculating about the rest of the Direct.
Yes, I have absolutely no... Again, this has all happened so quickly. We've got a number of anniversaries coming up at the very least, haven't we? Like there's... What is there? There's Zelda, Pokemon Day's happening soon. As you said earlier, in fact, there's Metroid. Oh, a new Metroid character. We could have Psylux in Smash. No, let's get away from Smash. Maybe. Obviously, I'm going to be saying things like, I want Metroid Prime 4, but considering we haven't heard anything like that for so long, I imagine we're going to get... Maybe the fact that they say they're focusing on, games coming out in the first half of 2021 and existing games suggests to me that maybe it's not really likely that we're going to be seeing anything like Metroid Prime 4 or Breath of the Wild 2. But when is the actual... I think we were chatting about it the other day. When is the actual anniversary for Zelda? Is that soon?
The Zelda anniversary in Japan is the 21st of February, which is next week. Which does sound like short notice, but then again, they gave us the Mario Direct and then released 3D All-Stars, I think within a couple of weeks. It was very short notice for that game too.
I don't know what they're going to do for it. I don't imagine they're necessarily going to do a similar thing to 3D All-Stars. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think 3D All-Stars felt very much like a kind of an unusual thing for Nintendo to do. They re-release games all the time, don't get me wrong, but an All-Stars-like compilation, they generally don't throw those out.
They don't, but I do wonder if they're setting a precedent with 3D All-Stars. It's so hard to judge with just one game, there's no pattern here. But there is a chance that maybe we'll see something similar for Zelda, or for Metroid, or for Pokemon. But I do think that this year, being the 35th anniversary of Zelda, will be a pretty big one. They celebrated 25th pretty strongly, with like a symphony orchestra. There was Skyward Sword, which was kind of happening anyway, Ocarina of Time 3D, the Four Swords Anniversary Edition. There was a lot of stuff that year. And they seem to always go big for their 5s rather than their 0s for some reason. So I do think there's a fairly good chance of maybe some sort of compilation, maybe even another remake or something like that. Whether Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be in this, I don't think so, but I do think we're going to see something, at the very least, from Zelda.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if we didn't see anything just due to the proximity alone. I mean, even if it's like Twilight Princess Picross or something.
Yeah, bring that classic back.
But yeah, no, I think something Zelda is... Whilst it's not necessarily guaranteed, I think it is highly likely.
The anniversary is literally right around the corner, and I guess there's a chance they could say tune in next time for the Zelda Direct, which they sometimes do in their directs. But the Zelda Direct, if that were to happen, the anniversary's on a Sunday, so now is kind of the time, I think, rather than putting it off any further.
Oh, well, maybe they're doing something for the anniversary as well, and Tingle's going to be a playable character in Super Smash Bros. I'm never going to move away from it, John, I'm sorry.
Smash is always with us. You know what, I'm fine with Tingle. The costume possibilities alone are endless. I recently got the DSi game, and you can put Tingle in a hula costume. That'd be an amazing costume for Tingle.
That alone is enough to bring him to Smash. I can feel it.
So, let's go back to Zelda a second, though. If they do a compilation, what do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be Ocarina of Time, or Majora's Mask, or Wind Waker, or Twilight Princess? How generous do you think they're going to be with this, if it happens?
I'm a little bit, I suppose, pessimistic after 3D All-Stars didn't have Galaxy 2. So my immediate reaction is it's probably going to be a little bit less than everybody wants. I mean, at the end of the day, what everyone wants would be all the games remade from the ground up, looking splendid, and that's not going to happen. But I do think that maybe even just like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask together, I think maybe upscaled or something, sort of, zhuzhed up a little bit for the Switch at the very least, rather than just, necessarily a straight port or to be honest, it may even be like the original N64 versions of the game rather than the 3D versions. But, I tell you what it might be, actually, because there have been buzzings for so long about Skyward Sword HD, and I've never actually properly played Skyward Sword. I borrowed it from a friend, and I'm afraid I was bored senseless. I never got into it, so I'd love to give it another chance.
Skyward Sword's one of those games that I think can be further appreciated now that we have our big, the most open Zelda ever. Going back to the more linear one, the expectations aren't quite there for it to be something that it isn't. So I do believe that Skyward Sword would be further appreciated now. But bringing it to Switch is always going to be a struggle, because it was built so tightly around motion controls. And like, yeah, you can map the motion controls maybe to the right stick. I don't think that would be fluid, but it's at least a solution, I suppose. I think you can maintain the core control scheme with the Joy-Con near perfectly. Like, the game didn't really utilize the sensor bar. Everything was done with Motion Plus. So if it were to come to Switch, I don't think it would lose that much.
No, I mean, I imagine if they were to do it, then I've got to be honest, I imagine they would do something in order to make it so that you don't have to play with motion controls, because the game would have to be played portably as well. And, you know, handheld, yeah, right. You can't really reliably use motion controls, certainly not like an individual Joy-Con swinging a sword around. It just doesn't work. So I imagine they would have to rework stuff around that, but I still don't think it's by any means an impossibility. You know, we've seen motion control games and, you know, things like Captain Toad. I know it's not like the most heavily motion control based game, but even so, it really needed the Wii U gamepad. They got around that.
Yeah. I mean, even if it comes at some compromises, they don't seem to be against doing that. And I guess the thing is, most people didn't really experience those kind of late-era games. Like, Skyward Sword sold considerably less than Twilight Princess. So just giving it a new audience is something, that's kind of enough. Like, kind of going off that too, Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, they sold okay. I think Wind Waker is in the top 10 Wii U games. It sold like around 2 million, which isn't much relatively to what Switch can do. But lately, a lot of Switch re-releases of Wii U games have come with extra features, like Bowser's Fury, or Future Connected, or things like that. So, I think in the past, I was of the belief that they would just port Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD on their own. But with these new extras they've been doing, I wouldn't think it'd be impossible to compile Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and maybe even Skyward Sword all in one package.
Oh, that's... I mean,
it's a beefy set.
I know we got 3 games with 3D All-Stars, but I'm usually so optimistic about things, but I just, after so many sort of perfectly adequate examples from Nintendo, I can't see them bringing all 3. I mean, I'd love to death to be proved wrong, but I don't know.
I mean, if anything, I just want Wind Waker on the Switch. I want to sail while being on an actual boat in real life.
That would be... I mean, to be honest, I'm baffled they haven't brought those remakes over already, as I mentioned recently in a video about bringing GameCube games to the... I nearly said the Wii U. The Switch. I've been playing too much 3D World. That's a problem. And I imagine this may well be the time to at least... But then at the same time, I can just see them doing something really dull out of it. Do you know what I mean? Just like, hey, you know, you can get the special version of the original Legend of Zelda on the NES Online app.
We're putting Link's hat in Animal Crossing. Happy anniversary, Zelda!
Oh, God, don't. Oh, God. Oh, but hopefully not. Hopefully it's going to be something we actually want.
Hopefully. I think the best thing they can do is something that we can't even predict. Like, if they're going to give us some brand new game that we didn't see coming. Like, what's Grezzo working on? They finished Link's Awakening in 2019. That's 2 years ago now. What are they doing?
I think they're working on a... Hang on, didn't they come up recently? Aren't they working on something new, like a new IP?
They were hiring for something.
Ooh.
They're a moderately large studio, so there's a chance that they're working on multiple projects at a time. So they may have been working on something prior to that, but they are hiring for a medieval-themed game, whatever that means.
Maybe it is the original Legend of Zelda being remade.
That's one way to celebrate an anniversary.
Yeah, I'd actually be well up for that, because I've never been... Or like a Link to the Past or something. There's... You know, they've already got the groundwork there with Link's Awakening. I know some people would maybe not be super up for the, you know, the art style and stuff, but I actually quite like the art style. But I think if you were to use that as a framework, you could probably apply that to both Link's Awakening and the original. I think it wouldn't be... I'm not a developer, but just from an outsider looking, I don't think it would be that hard as opposed to doing it from the ground up.
I wouldn't stick on Zelda for too long, but I had a great idea. So, they have their services for NES Online and Super Nintendo Online, right? And they're okay. They could definitely do more with them. But one thing I thought that they could do, and this actually revolves greatly around the online component, what if they brought over the Satellaview games? They localized them into English, and we got BS The Legend of Zelda. So that's a Super Nintendo remake of the original Zelda, and also a sequel, or like semi-sequel, to A Link to the Past. And they revolved around an in-game announcer, those in-game times where you could do things. That could so easily be replicated with online.
I'd love that, to be honest. I mean, as long as it had kind of like a fallback and it didn't have to be online all the time, because
sure.
One of the reasons we're all so desperate to play it is because you can't properly play it anymore because it was reliant on this, this Satellaview service. So but no, I'd be so up for that, because I've never properly played The Legend of Zelda or A Link to the Past. I've only ever got about halfway through and then I've just stopped for some reason. I really need a good excuse to try it again. Not that I need an excuse.
NES and Super Nintendo games, I've played a huge chunk of them already. So when they get added to the service, I'm like, neat. I probably won't play them though, because I've already played most of them. So I'm thinking, what more can they add to this service? And given that this is a general direct, is there a chance that 64 games could come? I emphasize 64 because this is an online multiplayer service, and I'm very unlikely to play very many NES and Super Nintendo games online. I'm very likely to play Mario Party and Mario Kart 64 and Smash and a bunch of other N64 games online.
Mario Party, real proper Mario Party online? That would be amazing. Actually, I don't think that's necessarily sort of just some sort of Mario Party thing. It's been a couple of years. They always try and do Mario Party every so often. I don't think it's outlandish that maybe in the first half of 2021 we could get something Mario Party related. I mean, not everyone, but the world is kind of still in lockdown. People aren't going out. Why not have a Mario Party with online to bring the party home, baby?
God, They attempted it in Super Mario Party, if you remember.
There
were like 20 games you could play independently online with no board.
Completely bollocked it, didn't they? They completely, royally screwed it up. I don't want to be too harsh, but yeah, the online for that game is worthless.
Yeah. We actually recently got a quote from Nintendo saying the Switch is in the second half of its life now. Which is actually kind of exciting for me, because the second half is usually when we get the weird stuff. That's usually when we get things like WarioWare. We got WarioWare Gold at the end of the 3DS's life, and things like Rhythm Heaven. So I'd love to see...
Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask, of course. I'd love to see more of these weird off-kilter games. Specifically WarioWare, because we haven't had a console one technically since the Wii. We had Game & Wario, which was more of a spin-off. And even WarioWare Gold was kind of like a compilation. It's like a best hits kind of game. So I wouldn't say we've had a proper, brand new WarioWare since the Wii era. And it's about time.
It's like Crash Bandicoot 4.
A WarioWare game themed around time. That's a dream.
Oh, yeah, that would be mad, wouldn't it? You could be hopping back and... Not like it had any semblance of consistency in the previous games. What else do you reckon we can expect?
So we've touched upon some Zelda stuff, we've touched upon some Smash. So, kind of going off your Mario Party suggestion, we've had one on Switch already, and it was a hit. It's one of the best-selling games on the system. Likewise, another game that's already on the Switch, and I think could very possibly get a sequel, is Splatoon.
Ooh.
Now, this is a tough one, because we don't know. Is this a one franchise per system deal? We don't know. But I do feel like Splatoon has such a passionate community, but it's kind of fizzling out. Splatoon 2's kind of had its time in the sun. And I'm not saying people don't play it, because they absolutely do. There's no doubt about that. But I think you can definitely reignite that flame and get the masses playing it again with a full-on sequel.
Well, as it happens, I was talking to a friend of mine last night. Hello, Paul, if you're listening in. And he happened to bring up the fact that Splatoon 2 was announced exactly 1 year, or it came out exactly 1 year after the last Splatfest on Splatoon 1. And apparently, that date for Splatoon 2 is coming up. So,
rubbing my hands together right now.
It's pure speculation, but if they follow that pattern, it's literally guaranteed 100% to happen.
The Splatfest result was chaos, which makes... that's really exciting for me to have this sort of it's already post-apocalyptic, but sort of diving into that kind of ruthless world to base the sequel on. The first game, the Splatfest favoured one of the Squid Sisters, and the story revolved around that. So to have something that's aimed around chaos, I can't wait for that.
That would be really exciting to see. I mean, maybe the idea would be Oh, I've just thought, sort of the idea is that society collapses and things like that, and the Octarians take over or something. But I've just thought actually it may well be the opposite, because the Octarians want to take over and have order, whereas the Inklings are all about hedonism and sort of relaxed and everyone being their own thing, and that's chaos in a sense. So maybe the Inklings win, and maybe we have to play as the Octarians this time around in the main story. Not like Octo Expansion. I mean, the Octarians are the good guys, because the Inklings have gone mad.
And you know what? If you've not played Octo Expansion, I'm gonna just throw it in your face now. It's one of the best DLCs I've played in a long time. Go play Octo Expansion.
It is phenomenal, isn't it?
It really is great. So yeah, I think there's a pretty high chance of Splatoon happening. And Splatoon 2 was a brilliant game, but it also reused a lot of the framework of the first game. Like, a lot of maps came back. And it definitely is its own thing. But I think there's a real chance that they could build something entirely new from the ground up. Like, give us entirely new maps, entirely new weapons. Just make it feel much fresher, which is kind of the point of the franchise.
Yeah, I think there's so many things that they could do, and so much untapped potential. They really brought things up a step with Splatoon 2. But at the same time, there is still so many different things they could explore, even just beyond like the idea of different weapons. They could have different movement options, things like that. Because the Inklings and the Octolings, they're no slouches. They can move, can't they?
Yeah. Have some like parkour systems in there beyond just swimming through ink.
Oh, certain walls where you can't ink them, but you can run along them whilst firing your weapon.
Oh, yes, that'd be awesome.
It's Titanfall. It's Titanfall Ink Edition or something.
All right, Alex, do you have any other predictions on the top of your head?
Oh, predictions? No.
Okay.
But vague ideas? I mean, it's only based on conjecture, but I imagine it's not entirely impossible that we may potentially, maybe, possibly might see something to do with the Diamond and Pearl remakes, the Pokemon games that people have been harping on about for a long old time now. I don't think that's impossible. I don't think it's like sort of, oh yes, they'll definitely do it, because the Pokemon Company kind of like to do their own directs a lot of the time, but it's not impossible.
No, it's not impossible.
Certainly with the current climate as well, Nintendo can get a direct out, but maybe the Pokemon Company, it's not so easy to, so they just kind of combine their efforts and they make it a Nintendo Direct, I don't think that's unlikely.
No, nor do I. And there's also a very high chance that they say, here's the Diamond and Pearl remakes. Stay tuned for the Pokemon Direct, where we're going to talk about Pokemon Unite, baby.
Oh, yeah.
That could very likely happen. So how do you picture these remakes? Are you just picturing the Sword and Shield Foundation, but put on to Diamond and Pearl? Or are you picturing something else entirely?
Well, I don't want to get too far into it, because this video is already a pretty beefy sausage. But I do think that I've been hearing rumblings related to Let's Go games. And to be honest, given how the original Diamond and Pearl games follow the same sort of grid system rather than the more sort of free-flowing shapes of the Sword and Shield, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if maybe we had maybe something kind of between Let's Go and Sword and Shield, where it's kind of maybe a little bit more restricted in certain areas, but in others, it's just a bit bigger, a bit grander. And as long as we can go underground, whatever that was, I can't fully remember. I just remember getting lots of minerals and having a lot of fun with that on the bus to school.
Actually, there's one thing I want them to borrow from Let's Go, and that's kind of, they dipped their toe in this. That's them being a sequel. Let's Go wasn't a straight remake of Red and Blue and Yellow. They had their own new characters, and the original characters from the first games also returned. I would like them to kind of do that again. Like, instead of just being Diamond and Pearl, have it like Diamond and Pearl 2.
That would be really interesting, actually, and it would actually give it a lot more worth, I think, rather than just, hey, play the same game again, but it's modern. But yeah, no, that would be, I can't help but think of like a new Pokemon game without like beating my head proverbially against a wall and just saying, for God's sake, just commit to some new ideas. Because I really liked Sword and Shield. I'm not going to get too much into it. I did really like Sword and Shield, but certainly by the time the second DLC came out, I was just like completely disillusioned by it. I was just like, wow, I just don't care anymore. And it's just, they keep trying. They keep tantalizing and tempting us with new ideas, and they're never following through with it, and it's infuriating. Just go for it, the Pokemon Company. We're ready. You can't fail with the Pokemon series. Just have some more bullish ideas. Do it.
God, and it's hard to say whether it's been too soon since Sword and Shield for there to be a real change, because I don't know. I would expect the next generation to be the big jump, but if they manage to pull it out and have a remake be a massive change for the series, then I'm all for that. But moving on to something not Nintendo a second, I think there's a pretty high chance we see Sonic in this. So they delayed Sonic's monthly announcements from last year. They just cancelled them. They didn't happen. So Sega have been holding on to a bunch of announcements they're kind of waiting for the right time to share with us. I think this might be the right time.
I think that's actually something I hadn't considered, even though I'm currently staring at a boxed version of a boxed copy of Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, who is Sonic. Yeah, I think there's great merit in that. Because at the end of the day, Sonic is still a big name, but I think like an announcement direct, certainly during a pandemic, for it to be entirely Sonic-centric, it might fall slightly on deaf ears. And so I think that maybe something bigger, grander, but make it a part of a Nintendo Direct, I think that would get way more eyes on it. And I think that would be a very smart thing to do. What it could be, though, John, tell everyone what it's exactly definitely going to be.
Okay, so I work at Sonic Team, so I know this. No, it's really hard to predict Sonic right now, actually, because I feel like there has been a lot of pushback against the boost formula lately. Mostly from fans. We don't know what Sonic Team's thinking, maybe they think it's still the best thing in the world. And to be fair, I enjoyed the boost formula for Unleashed and Colors and Generations. I don't know if Forces just disappointed me so much that I never want a boost game again, but I feel like I want them to try something new. Maybe reverting back to the adventure formula, maybe trying a sandbox style, maybe just something entirely new. I don't know. But I do think we're going to see a brand new game, rather than just a compilation. So, what I want from this, I think we've seen a lot of great fan projects where they've shown a sandbox Sonic and how it could work. And I think there's real potential there. So not open world, but something that's a bit more in line with the original games, where exploration is kind of part of the focus. But putting that in a 3D sandbox gives you so much more potential. And, I love playing with Sonic's moveset. In the adventure games, I love doing the spin dash jump and just, like playing with momentum. I think that's when Sonic's at his best. So if they try something new and go for a sandbox style, I do think that could work.
I've just had a weird thought, and it's not like the Sonic games haven't done this in the past, but I've recently been dabbling in a little bit of Halo, of all things, and trust me, this is relevant. And the thing with a lot of the Halo stages is that they are relatively open most of the time, not all the time. They're open, but there are little things for people to find and little areas to explore and little secrets here and there. And I think that's largely been lost on platformers as a whole. Not entirely. I think Odyssey did something pretty good with it, but, I still think that maybe there's a good middle ground. I mean, I hate to say it, but there were certain levels in Sonic the Hedgehog from 2006 that kind of got that kind of level structure down, and the execution was god-awful, but the idea in theory of having a broad sort of multi-path sort of long but wide stage with a defined start and finish, I think there's great potential in that, and you get that a bit in Adventure and Adventure 2, much more so in Adventure 2, but I think if they could harness that, then you would be able to still have that sort of tight and defined movement, A to B. It's at the end of the day, it's a 3D platforming game, but then having it broader, having a reason to explore, what's over here? Maybe if you're, sort of really clever and, for the love of God, have a higher skill ceiling for movement, like Sonic Forces.
Oh, please.
I mean, we've seen it with Nintendo. They've just done it with 3D World. They've added in a few new moves, and the characters will move faster, and as a result, you can do so much more with the movement. It is just so much more fun to control, and I mean, you've mentioned it before about Sonic Adventure. That's one of the reasons why you like that game so much, because there is the spin dash that you can kind of exploit, but maybe sort of look at that and make it a part of the game, like a proper intentional functional part that they expect you to do, like in Super Mario Odyssey, where you throw Cappy, you dive off him, you bounce off a wall, you throw Cappy again, you dive, and all that, just to get slightly high and get a load of coins. That's the stuff that I live for. If they can do that in a Sonic game with momentum, There's another game, actually, that's... I will stop talking at some point. There's a game called Glyph that we've... I think we've mentioned previously. I think Zion mentioned it, in fact, in one of his videos. And I've been playing that recently as well. And that does that kind of thing where there's like bonuses you can get, but you have to play off momentum and you have to really sort of hone in and really understand the mechanics and the physics in order to get it. And it's not easy, but it's always bonus stuff. Always make the bonus stuff really challenging but fun to do.
The frustrating thing is 2 decades ago, they were on to a really good streak with this. Like, Adventure 2's bounce, I feel like it's a genius move. And it's something that they just got rid of. They brought it back in Lost World for like a little bit, and then they went, nah, get rid of it again.
Instead, let's make Sonic run slowly up walls.
Yeah. Like, I like the boost games, I really do. But when boosting is an expected part of the moveset, then there's no longer a skill ceiling. You're just holding boost the entire time. And I'm not saying that the games have no difficulty, but I am saying that there's very little to exploit, and I want that what you were talking about, the Odyssey moveset, something that breaks the game while also being an intended part of the game. That stuff's so great. Anyway, we can talk about Sonic for ages. It's also his 30th anniversary. It's a big year for anniversaries. But I think we should move on to something else. So, are there any other ideas you have, Alex?
Not about the Direct. I've got some ideas about the way that Nintendo UK used the double S form of the word focused in their tweet, but that's it's fine.
Come on, Nintendo. You're better than that.
Hey, what about a Genshin Impact reveal? It's coming to Nintendo Switch shortly after this presentation.
I mean, I guess there's a very high chance that we could see... Well, we haven't really touched upon it, but there's going to be a lot of third-party games in there, I imagine. And Genshin Impact is one of the biggest games right now.
Maybe something from EA? I know there's been sort of murmurings about that for some time.
Yeah, like Plants vs. Zombies or something. It's weird with EA, because there's lots of franchises that I think would work on the Switch, and it's been nearly... We're a month away from the Switch being 4 years old, and the biggest franchises from them that I think would work have not surfaced in any capacity. The Sims, Plants vs. Zombies. I think those two make so much sense for Nintendo fans, and they just haven't done them.
And Mass Effect, maybe not quite as much for Nintendo fans per se, but my God, why are they not bringing Mass Effect Trilogy to Switch? It would work. All the previous games were on previous generation. Previous generation.
This makes me remember the time where the Wii U launched with Mass Effect 3, and a month later, they released the trilogy on the other systems.
Did that actually happen? Because I've got Mass Effect 3 on the Wii U, and I really like it. I think the gamepad was good with that.
Yeah, so they gave the Wii U one game, and then they gave all the other consoles the entire trilogy within the same span.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm shaking my fist in mild anger.
So Alex, Star Allies, Kirby Star Allies was 3 years ago now, March 2018. Since then, they've done, weirdly, not much. Kirby tends to have a lot of experimental spin-offs, but the Switch hasn't really been braced with them. However, I feel like another 2D Kirby would be very unexciting. We've kind of tapped the potential of what it can do. We've had Triple Deluxe, it was a good game. Robobot, great game. Star Allies, it kind of came back to the middling feeling of we've kind of done this before. I think it's time for 3D Kirby.
Oh, I've thought about 3D Kirby for so long, and I think, haven't we already seen, like, in Star Allies, in, like, the overworld, where you're just moving around to choose your level? You move around in a 3D space as Kirby, and it's really good. Just make a game out of that.
Yeah, and they actually had an eShop game on 3DS, which kind of gave us this sort of isometric kind of feeling, almost like 3D Land, I suppose. Where you could move Kirby along in full 3D space. It was very limited, but I do think it showed promise for the concept. And that kind of got me thinking, like, if they were to do a 3D Kirby, would it be like a 3D Land, 3D World kind of thing? Or would it be a fully 3D game?
Oh, I mean, to be honest, I think I'd be happy with either, but blimey, I think that's a discussion long enough for another time. There's so much,
really
3D
is.
Kirby, God, that's an hour-long chat, I think, at the very least. But one last thing, sorry, two last things I've just thought of. One is, for the love of God, just bring Xenoblade Chronicles X over to the Switch.
Come on, just do it.
Come on, you've done all the others. And lastly, Bayonetta 3. Come on, we've got to hear something. It's been in development for, I haven't actually checked the numbers, but I'm fairly certain it's 400 billion years.
I think that's accurate, yeah. Just show us a render of Bayonetta's arm. That will satiate us for
I was
a bit.
wondering what you were going to say after beginning
I was wondering what I was going to say
beginning the word
too.
with R.
Yeah, I mean, Bayonetta 3, there's huge expectations on that. And I don't know if it's going to come out in the first half of 2021. I don't know if that entirely matters, as long as we get a little tease. Just something to say, this game is okay. It's still in development, don't worry.
Yeah.
Either way, I think this is going to be an exciting Direct. We know Smash is in here, so that's already going to excite us. But the fact that it's 50 minutes long, and it's the first Direct in around nearly 2 years' time, is saying something. They've done a bunch of minis, and something about this one says to them, okay, this isn't going to be a mini, this is going to be a full-fledged one. So it has to have something big.
I think it'll be Retro Studios' secret project they've been working on, and it's all of Nintendo games that they've ever made into one big game called Mega Good 2.
Actually, I've heard that rumor, and I can verify that's true. Oh, and one final thing, actually. This is very quick. Tropical Freeze turned 7 yesterday. 7 years old. It's been 7 years since we've had a Donkey Kong game, and I know we've had Tipping Stars. That game is also like 6 or 5 years old. Oh, please.
Sorry, I just thought for a moment there it seemed like you were suggesting that Tipping Stars was a Donkey Kong game.
Oh no, I would never associate that thing with the Donkey Kong franchise. But please, anything Donkey Kong though. It's also his 40th anniversary. I literally do not care what it is. Give me Jungle Beat 2. Give me, I don't know, Jet Race 2. I don't care. I just want something Donkey Kong.
What about Donkey Kong Strikers Charged Football?
Not only would I take that, but I would adore that. On that note, Donkey Kong Strikers Charged Football. Will we see it tomorrow? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And be sure to go to that subscribe button and turn it into a 50-minute subscribe button, which is almost the length of this video.
Almost.
And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.